Yo, what's up guys? Super here giving you a build guide over one of the strongest, safest, and tankiest builds out there in Sanctum. Poison SRS. For the cost of 7 divs or less, you can achieve millions of DPS while being almost immortal. I'll be going over the mechanics, the cost of the gear, the gem links, and also the Animate Guardian. So let's get started. First, let's take a look at what makes this build work. Two key items that enable this build are the Covenant and United in Dream. Covenant giving you a level 29 added chaos damage of 377 to 565, while level 25 Envy gives 184 to 246 unbuffed. So with this, you get tons of free flat chaos damage scaling, and if you didn't know, poison can only be applied through fizz or chaos damage, and it has no limit to how many stacks a single enemy can take. But you're probably wondering, how are we achieving a 100% chance to poison for our minions? Well, with United in Dream with a whopping 60% chance to poison on hit, you need to fill in the 40%, which is very easily doable through Ghastly Eye Jewels. Since Ghastly Eye Jewels can roll 10 to 50% chance to poison, pairing this with Darkness Enthroned for a 75% increased effect of the jewel, you only need to socket one 15% chance to poison, and find another Ghastly Eye Jewel with 14% to socket into the tree to get 100% poison. If you don't have Darkness Enthroned, getting 3 Ghastly Eye Jewels is also an option. Now that we have the damage online, how much is it to start out this build? If you guys want to check out the cost of the build yourself, in the notes section of the PoE, I listed in the description below. You guys can check it out there. But in this section, I'll be talking about why this build costs as much. As you know, the two most important pieces here, the United Dream Cutlass being only 34 Chaos. You can get any United Dream Cutlass, pretty much only doing it for the 60% chance to poison on hit and the Envy skill. That's pretty much it. Most of the money in this build is from the Covenant. You can get this on 6 linked, on 5 linked at 5.7 divs, but if you want to buy a 6 linked one, it'll be around 8 divs. I 5 linked this myself, so it's actually pretty doable. You definitely want a 6 link later in the game, but you're able to clear a lot of the content with only a 5 link. Darkness Enthroned being only 2 chaos, very cheap, almost nothing. Jinx Juju, about 10 to 20 chaos. Try to get a good curse effect one, while also trying to maintain a high chaos roll. For the Ghastly Eyes, to achieve your 40% poison, you're going to need a 15% one and a 14% one. They're about 20 chaos a piece. Nothing crazy about that. For Cluster Jewels, I recommend trying to alt spam this yourself to get Call to Slaughter, and then using it from there. Make sure to get 8 passive skills. And if you don't want to do that, it'll cost you about 30 chaos to get Call to Slaughter on your Cluster Jewel. Now that's pretty much the main important part of the gear. Everything else, as long as you cap your gear, you're pretty much good. Most of it is rare. Don't worry about the helmet enchant either. As long as you get capped res through your rings, your gloves, your boots, your helmet, and your shield, you should be fine. As you can tell, I'm overcapped because I didn't compensate how much res I would have. For the Animate Guardian, now this is also going to be somewhat expensive for you guys if you want it to be living. I recommend using doppelgangers, guys, just to make the Animate Guardian live longer. And I don't recommend using Animate Guardian at lower levels until it's about level 20. That way it doesn't die. But the rest of the gear, Lyric 2 Chaos, gives you a nearby enemy, nearby allies, more damage. Dying Breath, increased curse effect, very good. The tech with the new Animate Guardian here is using Windscream with Asset's Gentle Touch. Windscream allows an additional curse to be applied, and that does work on top of your Despair and your Animate Guardian. So when your Animate Guardian applies the Temporal Chains with the Asset's Gentle Touch, you'll be able to get Explode with Temporal Chains, but also gain Despair damage from one single target, which is very good. Not too expensive for the Animate Guardian besides Doppelgangers, guys. I don't recommend running the other gear without it because your Animate Guardian will be dying. And if you guys are interested in trying to level with this build, I put a little bit of a leveling section here for you guys on what to do. You can run SRS very early if you have these uniques, such as Sid Breath and Mark of the Red Covenant. If you have those two, you can run SRS at a very low level. But if you don't have the access to these items, you can still do the Elementalist start where you do Orb of Storms with Stormblast Mines. But I do really highly recommend using the Mark of the Red Covenant level because it'll take you all the way to maps. And as you level, once you get level 69, you're able to switch off the Red Covenant and just run the United Dream to get the poison chance. Now, if you guys are interested in the specifics of the rare gear and some of the Ghastly Eye Jewels that I'm running that are super cheap, you guys can look at the item section of the PoE and take a quick glance at some of the rare gear that I did not list in the pricing. As you can see, one of the most important thing being decks on rings. You can get them anywhere else. Spell suppress also being very important to get the cap, stuff like that. You can run the green nightmare if you want to. It's not needed, but it's definitely harder if you want to get that spell suppress cap. If you want the details, check out the item section of the PoE. Now for the gem links of the build. I do have 2 different separate SRSs, one for a single target and one for mapping. Since you switch out multi-strike for melee splash and melee splash for multi-strike, you want to be using that whenever you feel like doing more boss damage to like Ubers, or if you're just mapping, then you do melee splash. Regardless, these are the links you need. Tempest Shield, Repeating Frenzy, Determination, Summon Stone Golem. Nothing crazy there. Stone Golem to give you the regen. Determination for armor. Tempest Shield for block. Repeating Frenzy to make it so he taunts better. Spectre Guardian. This will be your tank setup. So you have minion life and meat shield, which increases the HP pool of Anime Guardian's Raid Spectre because you don't want those guys to die because they give tons of DPS. Definitely never want your Anime Guardian to die, so you can get the Divergent version. And same with the Raid Spectre, you can also get the Anomalous version to give more lives. Make sure they don't die. Most of these links are in descending order from most important from least important. So if you guys ever get anything less than a 6 link, this is what it looks like. For United Dream, you want to add a Generosity. That way the Envy Aura skill goes onto your minions and not you, for more effectiveness. Shield Charge and Flame Dash on the weapon as well for your movement skills. For your shield, I have Vitality and then Divine Blessing with haste. Make sure to not link Vitality to the Divine Blessing because it'll actually make it an aura that gets buffed and uses tons of mana. So as long as you have Divine Blessing linked up to your haste alone, you should be fine. For the setup, I have Arcanist Brand with Despair. A lot of people are trying to do an automation of Bone Offering, Desecrate, and Despair, but I think just doing Arcanist Brand Despair is good enough. And you can self-cast Bone Offering and Desecrate in those situations where you're fighting a boss in the arena, then you Desecrate Bone Offering, or if you're just mapping, you just Bone Offering anything off the floor. Bone Armor is inherent from the Necromancer ascendancy that you get here. Put that on left click, which gives tons of defense for your minions and yourself. Envy being on the weapon. That's pretty much for skill links. So for the last part, for your Spectres and Animate Guardian, the Animate Guardian gear you can find in the item section under the item set right here called AG gear. You'll be needing the Dying Breath, Clear Cast, Doppelganger Guise, Assonance, Gentle Touch, and Windscreen, like I said before. That's pretty much it for the Animate Guardian. For the Spectres, you'll be needing the Arena Master and the Pale Seraphim. The reason why you choose these two is because with the Thunderweb on a Pale Seraphim, you're able to get a reduced access speed on the enemy and also increased damage taken on them. And for the Arena Master, he gives a buff whenever he slams his shield that gives movement speed, attack speed, and cast speed by 40%, which is huge for minions. So I highly recommend these two. These are kind of the new top dogs of Spectres. Pale Seraphim can acquire through Beyond, aka Scourge. They'll be looking like big old regular dudes with spider arms on their back. And for the Arena Master, they look like just regular dudes with like maces and shields. And you can find these in Drox influence maps. And that's pretty much the overview of the build for you guys. Alright, to sum it up, I want to give my final thoughts on this build. I played it for a bit and I enjoy it. This build does everything. It does everything from Ubers to invitation farming to mapping to 100% Delirious. It runs every map mod it can with no problems. And it's almost unkillable unless you play really badly. Tons of defense on this build to not mess up. The only slight downside for this build is that I do not enjoy doing DOT builds because it takes time for the damage to ramp up. But besides that, this build is insane. I really recommend it. And if you guys are trying to go for a full Sanctum clear, it is possible with this build. That's it for my final thoughts. If you find this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps a ton. And if you have any comments, leave them down below. I want to hear your thoughts about this build. And thanks for watching. Peace.